What's up guys, Tyray521 back again to bring you another video. Well, another year has come to a close and the time has come to bring you the list of my top 10 favorite movies of 2018. This list has become an annual tradition for me and one of the personal highlights of my channel. 2018 may not have been as strong of a year for film as previous years, but there were still plenty of gems that I'm excited to get to talk about. Unfortunately, having seen 32 new releases this year, there are a great deal of movies that did not make the cut. Here are my quick thoughts on those films. The Cloverfield Paradox, a disappointing mess of a film. This movie made me question the fate of the Cloverfield franchise and where it's heading. Black Panther, a fun Marvel movie that provided us with one of the best MCU villains yet and a kick-ass car chase. Game Night, miles funnier than most comedies that come out today, with clever writing and a great supporting cast. Thoroughbreds, a darkly comedic indie film with great cinematography, but occasionally slow pacing. Ready Player One, fun action sequences were not enough to save this generic, overly long, and cliché adventure movie, but I still love you, Spielberg. A Quiet Place, suspenseful, original, and very thrilling. First-time director John Krasinski delivered something truly unique to the horror genre. Avengers: Infinity War. The blockbuster event of the year was one of the most entertaining watches of 2018. The incredibly polarizing ending almost earned it a spot on the list, but the rest of the movie does little that we haven't seen before. Deadpool 2. There were a few movies this year that made me laugh harder than this superhero sequel. The X-Force drop scene alone had me in stitches. Such a shame that this list is only a top 10, as this one just barely missed out. Solo: A Star Wars Story. The first Star Wars movie that's left me with an empty feeling inside. I enjoyed myself the entire time I was in the theater, but it has not had a lasting impact on me. The film constantly struggles to justify its own existence, eventually becoming nothing more than an average sci-fi adventure with the Star Wars name haphazardly slapped onto it. Hereditary. Creepy, emotional, and super disturbing. I can't praise Toni Collette's acting enough, with her being my top pick for Best Actress at the Oscars this year. While this movie may have been one of the best crafted of the year, horror movies aren't always my thing. Incredibles 2, a very enjoyable sequel to Brad Bird's beloved Disney classic. Not quite top 10 worthy, but I still had a blast watching this one. Leave No Trace. Ben Foster and newcomer Thomasin McKenzie have exceptional chemistry throughout. However, I can't help but feel that it would work much better as a short film, and the emotional impact of the ending left me a little underwhelmed. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Fun overall, but one of my personal least favorite MCU movies. The bonding scenes between Scott Lang and his daughter were by far the standout moments of the film. Sorry to Bother You. Starts as an absurd workplace comedy and evolves into an insane and absolutely hilarious thrill ride. The plot twist may have been a little over the top for its own good, but still, I'm really looking forward to going back and rewatching this one. Halloween. While it was fun to return to Haddonfield and Michael Myers became terrifying once again, the movie overall was pretty by the numbers. Jamie Lee Curtis was outstanding though. It's a shame she didn't have more screen time, or this movie could have truly been something special. The Old Man and the Gun. Robert Redford's supposed final performance is in a movie that's clearly not made for my generation. The storyline and acting is suitable, but the pacing is slow and the story just doesn't have enough meat to it. Seeing the return of many actors who have since stepped away from the limelight is really the main draw, but it's still a charming film nonetheless. Perfect for a Sunday afternoon watch. Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm sad to say that my most anticipated movie of the year did not make the cut. As a massive Queen fan, I was sad to see the script take many liberties with the real story of their success, creating fake conflicts and changing events to make the film fit a more cliché biopic structure. However, it was still a strong contender for the list, as Rami Malek's portrayal of Freddie Mercury was near perfection, and the recreation of the Live Aid concert was the most magical moment I had in a theater all year, serving as one of my top 3 favorite movie moments of 2018. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. The Coen brothers return with a humorous, ironic, and contemplative collection of short films set in the Old West. All Gold Canyon and the title short The Ballad of Buster Scruggs are the highlights of the movie, but it's sometimes bogged down by some of the slower and less interesting tales. Even still, this would probably rank number 11 had I extended the list, and I'm really bummed I can't include it. Also, if When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for Wings doesn't take the Oscar for Best Original Song this year, then there's just no justice in the world. Widows. The central story of this film is absolutely riveting and could have made for a strong contender for the top 10. The only thing holding it back is the abundance of subplots, some of which go nowhere. Despite that, the acting and camera work are absolutely top-notch and are the true highlights of the film. Roma. The technical aspects of this film are phenomenal, and Alfonso Cuarón deserves all the credit in the world for that. Unfortunately, with the exception of the powerful beach scene towards the end, the film didn't really connect with me emotionally. It's one of those movies that I have a deep respect for, but would never consider it a personal favorite. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. A funny, fresh, original take on the Spider-Man story that boasts out-of-this-world, visually appealing animation. A very fun watch, one of the most laid-back cinematic experiences of the year. And finally, The Mule. Clint Eastwood delivers a perfectly functional crime drama, acting as director, producer, and lead star. It's cliché at times, and the story is not always super engaging, but a strong charisma and steady pace of the plot make it worth the watch. If this is really his final acting performance, he left off on a solid note. Without any further delay, let's jump right into the top 10. Number 10. BlacKkKlansman. Spike Lee was clearly the perfect director to tackle such an insane true story. The tale of a black man and a white man teaming up in the 1970s to infiltrate the Ku Klux Klan doesn't lend itself well to being told as a comedy. But not only did Spike Lee pull that off, he also managed to intertwine humor into a very poignant script. Throwing phrases around like "Make America Great Again" in a period piece is a dangerous move, but the way he ties it together with the footage of the 2017 Charlottesville riots at the end really drives the point home that we've still got a lot of work to do when it comes to race relations. John David Washington is phenomenal in the lead role, and Adam Driver really steals any scene he's in. Topher Grace as KKK leader David Duke was a very out-of-character role for him, but he pulled it off exceptionally well. The stylistic choices, including the music and the intricate camera work, are the main factors in giving this movie its personality. 2018 was my introduction to Spike Lee, and having seen both BlacKkKlansman and Do the Right Thing now, he's a director who's definitely going to be on my radar from now on. Number 9. Vice. A controversial pick to be sure, but I just can't deny that the story of Dick Cheney's rise to power in the White House is one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. Director Adam McKay is very creative with his storytelling, and he utilizes similar techniques from his 2015 film The Big Short. He often uses clever metaphors to explain a certain concept to the audience, my favorite of these being an excellent scene in which the conversation for how to get away with torturing potential members of Al-Qaeda is spun into a dinner menu metaphor, with Alfred Molina reading off the options. I was laughing hysterically at quite a few scenes, but the movie is also smart in understanding the implications of Cheney's horrific actions, and plays it dramatic when needed. Christian Bale, Steve Carell, and especially Amy Adams deliver knockout performances, often transforming into their roles. While it may be considered hypocritical to fault Bohemian Rhapsody for its factual inaccuracies, but not this film, Queen's story is out there, and open to the public in the form of dozens of Wikipedia entries and behind-the-music specials. So much of what's being told in this film is shrouded in secrecy, which is even stated in the opening credits, so I'm able to give them a pass for that. Either way, this movie enthralled me, and I was engaged from start to finish. Number 8. Annihilation. I really started opening my eyes lately to artistic sci-fi, films like 2001 and Ex Machina, so naturally I was intrigued by Annihilation. Visually, it's out of this world. The way Alex Garland presents the ominous dimension of the Shimmer is both beautiful and horrifying, a tone present throughout much of the movie. The overarching theme of evolution and the mystery of the Shimmer create a distinct atmosphere that looms over you for the 2-hour runtime. Natalie Portman and the rest of the cast are great in their roles, but it's really the presentation and philosophical themes that earn Annihilation a spot on the list. The score for this film is indescribably terrifying, and has remained my favorite score of the year since my first viewing. The climax is incredibly polarizing and left me stunned, taking the second spot on my top 3 favorite scenes of the year. I truly can't wait to see what Alex Garland conjures up next. He's proving to be one of the best science fiction directors of this decade. Number 7. Overlord. Whatever happened to just having good, old-fashioned fun at the movies? Every year a movie earns a spot towards the top of my list for the simple reason that it was just a fun and enjoyable experience that delivered exactly what it intended to. In 2016 it was Deadpool, in 2017 it was Baby Driver and It. This is no exception. However, I've dialed it back a bit this year, as those movies usually get bumped back a couple spots when I revise my lists. While I may have had a blast with Infinity War, Incredibles 2, and Deadpool 2, Overlord dominates all 3. This movie's got it all. A creepy and tension-filled atmosphere, grotesque practical effects, and beautiful over-the-top B-movie violence. My interest for this one started during the rumors that this would tie into the Cloverfield universe, but once I saw the trailer, one of the best edited trailers of the year in my opinion, I could tell that this was something different, something special. It's not a deep and personal movie with something to say, but then again, it's not trying to be. It's fun, it's horrific, it's absolutely insane. It's just simply the most badass movie of 2018. Number 6. Mid-90s. Jonah Hill's directorial debut is an impressive one indeed. This is the kind of movie that just screams passion project. This personal story of a young boy trying to fit in with a group of reckless skateboarding teenagers is set against the background of the, you guessed it, mid-1990s. This is apparent in both the script as well as the presentation. Everything from the 4:3 square aspect ratio to the soundtrack comprised of old school hip hop and rap is what makes this story feel so authentic. The craftsmanship put into the look of the movie deserves an immense amount of praise, but it's not just the aesthetic look of the film that makes it great, it's the characters. Each boy in the group represents a different type of person that we all knew growing up, and I get the strong feeling that Hill pulled inspiration from his own childhood when writing these characters. Some of the dialogue took me right back to conversations I've had with friends in the past, and it put a smile on my face. Hearing Hill talk about this movie in interviews is just so inspiring. This movie is his baby, and that passion and dedication really shows in the final product. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if certain aspects of the characters Stevie and 4th grade were pulled straight from Hill's experiences in his youth. Either way, huge props to him. He came out of the gate swinging. Definitely one of the most emotionally resonant movies I've seen this year. Number 5. A Star is Born. Would not have expected this to crack the top 5 earlier on in the year, but here we are. Bradley Cooper's directorial debut is definitely the most emotionally draining film of the year for me. The story between these two characters is both beautiful and tragic. This is in large part due to the acting, as the performances by both Cooper and Lady Gaga are incredibly powerful. These two just radiate chemistry, and I found myself much more invested in their relationship than I anticipated going in. So to see it deteriorate over the course of the film is all the more heartbreaking, and without spoiling anything, the ending really got to me. Who could forget the nerve-wracking Grammy sequence, by far the most stressful and tension-filled scene of the entire year? The original soundtrack is undeniably 2018's finest, there's not even a debate there. But it all comes back to those performances. No other movie this year delivered more realistic characters than A Star is Born, and that's in large part due to the excellent cast. Even the supporting actors, Sam Elliott, Dave Chappelle, Andrew Dice Clay, they were terrific. Given that this is the highest film on my list with the most Oscar potential, this is my personal choice for Best Picture this year. In a time of countless unnecessary and unwanted remakes, this film takes a classic story and modernizes it, creating something truly unique in the process. Number 4. 8th Grade. I never thought I could use the word cringy in a positive way, and then 8th Grade came along. Comedian Bo Burnham tells the story of socially awkward Kayla struggling to make it through the last week of middle school. This movie is miles funnier than it has any right to be, and much more emotionally relatable than I could have imagined. It's a movie about kids that actually understands kids. The best way I can describe this movie is so relatable it hurts. Everything, from the popular girls lost in their phones, to the dabbing teachers, to the random kid yelling, "LeBron James," in the halls. But it's more than just a venture into middle school culture. This is a movie that tells a personal story of finding yourself and growing up. Kayla's struggle to adapt to the world changing around her is something we can all relate to. We've all experienced those feelings of identity crisis and holding on to the past. This film does such a masterful job of balancing the cringe-inducing comedy with the more hard-hitting moments, and it all comes to an emotional crescendo in the bonfire scene towards the end of the film, a scene that really hit me close to home. Elsie Fisher deserves an Oscar nomination for her performance. She was phenomenal. I'm keeping this one at number 4 for now, but I feel that over time it might crack my top 3. It was funny, it was poignant, and it's probably the most rewatchable movie of the year for me. Number 3. Won't You Be My Neighbor? A balm of kindness and empathy in divisive times. That's a quote from a reviewer, pulled from the trailer. I can think of no better sentence to summarize why this Mr. Rogers documentary was so powerful. Negativity is everywhere nowadays. Everyone is seemingly offended by everything, and it seems like we're always at each other's throats over the most meaningless of reasons. Everything that Mr. Rogers stands for goes completely against that. The movie chronicles the success of his popular children's show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and his simple goal of spreading happiness and love. He understood kids. He wasn't afraid to get serious, because life is not always going to wait until you get older to knock you down. He's that neighbor that you've always wanted, the friend that you've always had. You just look at this man and what he accomplished, and you can't help but feel ashamed of what our world has become. This documentary came out at the absolute perfect time, as I feel we need Mr. Rogers now more than ever. Maybe, thanks to this film, someone new will rise up and don the sweater eventually. But until then, thank you, Fred Rogers. I will indeed be your neighbor. Number 2. First Man. The incredibly harrowing story of man's journey to the moon is one begging to be told on the big screen. The way Damien Chazelle directs this film is just simply beautiful, from the claustrophobic cockpit shots to the black and mysterious landscape shots once we reach the moon's surface. What makes this such a powerful film, though, is the deep glance into the life of Neil Armstrong. Ryan Gosling's portrayal is accurately very subdued and stoic, allowing his wife Janet, played by Claire Foy, a chance to shine during the more emotional moments of the film. Neil's life throughout the film is defined by two major events: the planned journey to the moon and the recent death of his young daughter. The way they balance these two corresponding events is done incredibly well, tying them together in a beautiful way once Neil reaches the moon's surface. Switching from normal cameras to IMAX cameras for the moon sequence adds to the serene nature of the scene, immersing the audience in this incredible moment in human history. This scene takes the third and final spot in my top 3 favorite scenes of 2018. The story is riveting, the acting is exceptional, and the directing is flawless. Chazelle made the smart choice of turning what could be a very by-the-numbers story into a deep and emotional character examination. Even at almost 2.5 hours, my eyes were glued to the screen until the very last shot. One of the most underrated and underappreciated movies of 2018. To me, First Man was the most cinematic event of the year. Number 1. Isle of Dogs. I cannot think of another movie from this year more unique and original than Isle of Dogs. Wes Anderson's quirky brand of comedy is not for everyone, I am well aware of that. But something about this movie just worked. I'm not even a diehard fan of Anderson, if I'm being completely honest. I've only seen his more recent films, and the only other one I would say I love is Moonrise Kingdom. Here he delivers an oddball comedy filled with beautiful animation, perfectly framed shots, extremely well-written dialogue, and the perfect cast to pull it off. The story of a boy trying to find his lost dog among the island of abandoned canines is just as charming as it sounds. The dogs each have their own personalities, complete with witty dialogue and excellent voice acting performances. Sure, I will admit that the scenes with the human characters are a little exposition heavy and are not always super interesting, but even still, Isle of Dogs takes the top spot on creativity alone. The hard work and effort put into the animation is abundantly clear, and it's all pulled together with Anderson's unique sense of humor. It's all just a matter of opinions, though. No other movie this year put a smile on my face more than Isle of Dogs, and it's my personal favorite movie of 2018.
Wow!
To the north, a long rickety causeway over a noxious sludge marsh leading to a radioactive landfill polluted by toxic chemical garbage. That's our destination.
Great.
Got it.
Get ready to jump.
Thank you so much to those of you that stuck around and watched until the end. These kind of videos are the ones I always look forward to making, and it was my first time trying my hand at scripting a video in an effort to cut back on the needless rambling. So let me know down in the comments if you would like more scripted videos in the future. I'd be more than happy to do it. Also keep in mind that this list is subject to change over time, so if you disagree with the ranking, it could look very differently by the time I'm making my 2019 list. I'm very confident with the movies I've chosen, but just like any year, I'm not 100% sure about the ranking quite yet. This is just how I feel now. But that's the problem with so many of the year's best movies coming out at the tail end of the year during Oscar season. Many of them have not had Blu-ray releases yet, and I was unable to rewatch many of the movies that I would have liked to. If my list does change, I'll be sure to let you know in next year's video. I recently revised my 2016 list, which as you can see looks much different from the first draft. My 2017 list also got an update, however most of the movies on the list are intact, just rearranged. I also extended it to a top 13, given how great of a year for film 2017 was. So let me know what some of your favorite movies of 2018 were down in the comments. It could be your top 10, top 5, top 3, anything. I'd love to read them. Again, thank you so much for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.